All right, so welcome. I just want to take a minute first just to ground ourselves into our bodies real quick, just get centered. So just sitting comfortably wherever you are, letting your eyes close. And just drop your awareness into your physical body. Feel the parts of you that are touching the chair, maybe the floor, wherever you're sitting, just grounding down. Take a moment to sense and feel that force of gravity, tethering us safely to the earth. We'll take a big inhale together. And then exhale through your lips like you're blowing out a candle. Again, inhale through the nose. And then exhale through the lips, let it go. Let's do that one more time. Big inhale. And exhale. Just allowing yourself to maybe be a little more present. Acknowledging you took this time to nurture yourself this morning just by maybe picking up on a few tools. All right, as you're ready, feel free to open your eyes. And I welcome you again. So, anxiety, that's our topic. And this is the most common mental health condition in the world, as I'm sure many of you can believe that, right? They say statistically 1 in 5 of us suffer from some level of anxiety. And if we're really honest, it's probably more than 1 in 5 of us, because there is a spectrum of what anxiety means, right? Anxiety can manifest as worry, excessive thoughts, a lack of concentration. It can show up as insomnia. A lot of people suffer with insomnia because all day they can distract themselves maybe from these busy thoughts and excessive thinking. They have other things to focus on, but then it comes to going to sleep and everything's quiet. And so sometimes people have trouble falling asleep. And then there are others who wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. And then it's really difficult to distract yourself from your own mind, right? And that's very, very common as well. Anxiety can create changes in heart rate. It can create sweating, panic attacks, social phobias. I mean, there is, like I said, there's a whole spectrum. And this can be very isolating as well. It's really important to gather in community, to know that we're not alone. You know, this, like I said, this is so common. And when we gather in community and know that we're not alone, this is where healing begins. And when we heal ourselves, we truly affect those around us, our family, our friends, our coworkers. We start to vibrate at a different frequency. It affects the space around us. If you've experienced anxiety firsthand, you know very well that mind-body connection. It's a very visceral experience, and our body is in survival mode, right? And our brain is operating out of fear and out of protection. And our body is flooded with cortisol, with adrenaline. And when this happens, it's kind of like our brains get hijacked. We no longer have access to our wisdom. We no longer have access to clarity, to making good decisions. To say the very least, anxiety is a distraction from living a life of ease, from enjoying our lives, and from being fully ourselves, right? Anxiety can really keep us from being that full expression of who we want to be. I know this all too well. This is definitely my path. Anxiety has been my greatest teacher. It is what brought me to yoga and Ayurveda many years ago. For me too, I will say, I think the most beautiful part of the Ayurvedic journey for me is I learned that being an anxious person was not who I am. That's not my identity. You know, when you were in an imbalance for so long, and there's many different, array of imbalances that we have in our lives, they can start when we're very young. And then we perceive ourselves as, well, this is who I am. I'm an anxious person. I'm a nervous person. That was the biggest turning point. And I think that's the biggest incredible, compassionate awareness that I see in the clients that I treat. Because when you understand that this is not who you are, this is such a loving, compassionate awareness to understand that this is an imbalance and this is not your nature, right? Nobody is born anxious. We can have tendencies towards being anxious. Our constitution may be more leaning towards what we call Vata dosha, right? But it's not who we are. We are not our imbalances. And it's very empowering to learn that we have choices. There are things we can do every day to bring us in that direction of more ease. So we can't heal the mind with the mind, right? We can't think our way out of anxiety. And the mind doesn't just live here, right? The mind is a field. The mind lives in every cell of our bodies. And within this matrix of mind body, our spirit exists. Our true nature, our essence exists within this. So we need an integrative approach to healing the mind. And Ayurveda has understood this for thousands of years, that our physiology and our psychology are interwoven and inseparable. And true health and well-being is this harmonious interaction between our mind and our body. We haven't changed that much in these 3,000 to 5,000 years since Ayurveda, has existed, since yoga has existed. Our physiology is not very different than our ancestors, right? And so Ayurveda and yoga have really stood the test of time because of its simplicity. It's so simple. People almost, can't believe how simple it really is. But these practices of both Ayurveda and yoga, so Ayurveda is the healing side of yoga, they're sister sciences. Every practice within this system, this holistic system, is all about bringing us out of that sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system, a lot of you are aware of what this is. It's that fight or flight. Again, it's that place where we no longer have access to our wisdom. We're not really in the moment. And these practices bring us into our parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, restore system. And it is truly only here in that parasympathetic nervous system that healing can begin. Right? Because the nervous system is what controls every other system in our bodies. So we have to start with the nervous system, and which is the intelligence of these ancient systems. Before they even understood exactly the nervous system, they understood it as energy in our bodies. And now neuroscience is proving this wisdom, these techniques really have an effect on the nervous system. So it's really timely. These ancient practices are incredibly timely. So I just want to talk a little bit about how Ayurveda understands anxiety. It's a disturbance of what we call Vata dosha. We have 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I'm not going to go all into that today, but Vata dosha is responsible for movement in the body and the mind. And it's ruled by the element of air. So when the movement in the mind is excessive and we can't control it, this is a Vata imbalance. Anxiety, worry, fears, all of this is like our head is in the air. So think of the air element, this movement and this lightness. I know firsthand, again, when I have been in full-on anxiety, it's like I'm a head without a body. I'm completely cut off from my body. I'm not grounded in my body. I'm not in the moment. It's like your head is in the air. And just to give a little bit of perspective, so I said Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata, the psychological imbalance, is going to be anxiety, worry, this lightness, kind of, you can be scatterbrained. Pitta is the fire element, and Pitta, people are in the moment more, but when you're imbalanced in that fire element, you're in the moment, but you tend towards anger. You're short fused, and you're in the moment, you're not really thinking about the consequences of the future. And then we have Kapha. Kapha is mainly earth, and Kapha imbalance tends to be very attached, and that has more to do with the past, right? They're ruminating about the past, or they're attached to the past, and that tends towards depression. So we have Vata, anxiety; Pitta, anger; Kapha, depression. That's kind of the spectrum, in a nutshell, of Ayurvedic psychology, these imbalances in the mind. But we're talking about Vata today. And so Vata in the mind, the subtle qualities of Vata in the mind is called prana. And we look at the qualities so that we can bring balance, right? So the qualities of this air, of this prana, is mobility, lightness. It's cold, it's variable, it's dry. Just think about the wind outside, right? Ayurveda abides by the laws of nature. This is what makes it so simple. So we counter opposites are going to balance, right? So how do we balance those light, dry, mobile, cool qualities? We bring in containment, qualities of stability, structure, rhythm, routine. We want to increase what's the subtle groundedness of the mind we call ojas. That brings us stability, a sense of contentment, strength, resilience, emotional resilience. That's your ojas. And that's like I said, the subtle qualities of earth element. Our nervous system really thrives on this sense of predictability, and our daily routines is a way to organize our prana. Our prana, that subtle quality of air, is our life force. And when our life force is all scattered, right, we're pulled in a million directions, we're thinking about all different things, it's really hard to put one foot in front of the other and take intentional action. So there is no quick fix, right? And I think this is the thing sometimes with Ayurveda, people want to just take a pill, and there's nothing wrong with Western medicine. And many times people need to take something for anxiety to get out of a crisis situation, 100%. But this is really the path of longevity. Ayurveda we're looking at the rest of our lives. We're taking care of not only ourselves in this moment, but our future selves. And we're not just masking a symptom, right? We're going to get to the root of it, create real lasting change. So like I said, anxiety, fear, worry, this Vata imbalance is all about future thinking. It's things we don't have control over, right? And that's what can be so paralyzing sometimes. So what we want to talk about today is, what do we have control over? What are the choices we can make every day that are going to be grounding, that are going to organize this prana? And again, it's kind of simple, but it does take consistency. It takes doing these things over and over, but it's very empowering, and you can start very small. So I break this down into 3 pillars. We have 3 main pillars of things we have control over, and that's what we eat, how and when we sleep, and how we breathe. So eat, sleep, and breathe. And so there's a lot to these 3 pillars, but an overview is, what we eat isn't just the food that we eat. It's what we're taking in through all of our senses, right? We have to digest our impressions as well, not just digest our food. So what are we taking in through our eyes, through our ears? Who are we hanging out with? What are the conversations around us? What are we watching on TV, social media? We're so bombarded these days. Our nervous systems are bombarded with impressions for the mind to digest. And then sleep is not just the quality of your sleep, but it's also how well can you rest during the day? How well can you bring that body into the parasympathetic nervous system throughout the day? That's under that category of sleep and rest. How can we regulate the nervous system? Tell that message to our bodies that we're safe. And then the third pillar is breathe. The breath is life, right? How we breathe is our relationship to life itself. And this has the most direct impact on the mind, how we're breathing. And this category, or this pillar, I also open up to more than just the breath, but it relates to our life energy in general. And how are we managing our own energy? Where are we putting our energy? Maybe our energy is put in too many places, and that's scattering us. So there's a responsibility we have there as well. So we'll go into these three pillars, and I hope that you can take away at least a few things today, even one thing from each of these pillars that you could start doing. And then it's all experiential, try it out, see how you feel. It's interesting because I think a lot of people have a misconception that Ayurveda is super strict and you have to change everything in your life. I hear this a lot from people. They're like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too many things. There are so many daily practices Ayurveda offers us. The toolbox is immense, but you can take just one or two. It's like, there can be a lot of food on a table and you just take what you like. So that's really what Ayurveda offers us. We don't have to change everything in our lives. And speaking from someone who long-term Vata imbalance, this is where I came to Ayurveda. Like I said, I resisted discipline. I resisted routines. And I see this a lot now in my clients where, people who tend to be more Vata, they like to be spontaneous. They don't like to be tied down. Like I said, I would forget to eat, and then be so hungry, I would be feeling dizzy, right? Or I'd be eating on the go, and just all these like little things and little changes that you can make that have a huge impact on your nervous system. So we create these anchor points during the day. Okay, so we'll go back to the three pillars, starting with eat. How we eat is just as important as what we eat, if not more important. So the number one thing, and if this is the one thing you take away from this pillar, I would be happy, is having regular meal times. It doesn't have to be exact, but in the ballpark of the same times each day that you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're a very Vata person by nature, you may be having 5 meals, 5 small meals, and that's fine too. But remember, Vata is space, it's air, it's all of this kind of emptiness. When you let yourself get very hungry, you are increasing that Vata dosha immensely, right? So we want to, don't let yourself get so hungry, so we want to create the anchor points of our meals and just start to notice. You could even start writing down, these are the times I'm hungry, right? It's different for every person. And just start to see a pattern and see if you can start sticking to a pattern. And then your body, your digestive system knows what to expect. And you actually start to improve your digestion because the body is ready at those times to eat. There are many guidelines around eating that are helpful. I'll just offer you one of them, besides eating at the same times each day, is sitting down to eat. And if you want to take it further, sit down and don't watch TV or be on your phone. And again, it's so simple, but let's be honest, it's not easy. I would start with having a candle on my table just to look at the candle. And so I wasn't pulled to look at my phone or be distracted, even reading, not even reading, just be with your food. It doesn't take that long to eat, actually, if we're just eating. So lighting a candle, having something to look at, maybe a vase of flowers that's lovely, something where, and maybe just start with one time a day. This is how I began too, just breakfast. I sat down for breakfast because I was always eating on the go. And, I found Ayurveda in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was running around. So I started with breakfast, just sit and have breakfast. That said, Now into what are you eating? What are you eating for breakfast? We want to counter, again, look at the qualities. Vata, cold, dry, mobile, light. So we want to eat something that's going to be a little heavier, warm, moist, grounding. So we want to have foods that are cooked, not having raw foods. We want to have foods that are warm, so not having a cold bowl of cereal or a cold smoothie. I lived on smoothies and things like popcorns and chips and all of that. And when I started looking at my diet, all these things were vata vitiating. They were increasing this vata quality. So you just start to look at the qualities of your food and, even eating this raw diet, like a lot of people eat raw fruits and vegetables, and that builds prana, right? That's fresh. It's raw. It's very prana building. So that can be good at the right time, right? We do want to increase prana, but it's the right time for the right person. We're talking about anxiety. We're talking about grounding. This isn't a time to be eating raw fruits and vegetables. So let's say for breakfast, you have a cooked apple and you add some warming spices like cinnamon and ginger and a little cardamom. And then you cook that in a nice fat, like something like ghee, which is a really healthy fat. So we want to think about things like fats and proteins. And if you're having fruits and vegetables, thinking about having them warm. So like I said, for breakfast, maybe having cooked apples or something like oat bran. Oat bran definitely changed my life. So oat bran is a much lighter oatmeal. It's just like oatmeal, and oatmeal's fine. Oat bran is just a little easier to digest. It's a little bit finer. That was the first recommendation my Ayurvedic practitioner gave me, was eat oat bran every morning, cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, a little bit of maple syrup. And I stuck to that one routine. It didn't matter if I was traveling anywhere, I'd have my bag of oat bran with my spices. That was an anchor point for me. So again, you'll find maybe what is for you, but see if you can stick with something and then see how you feel. Okay, so the next category is sleep. Again, just as with the eating, the number one thing you could do is go to sleep at the same time and wake up at the same times, and keep that consistent schedule. This is going to ground your sleep and help you to sleep sounder, just having that regular routine. And there are, of course, great rituals to bring into your sleep routine, taking a nice warm Epsom salt bath. That magnesium of the Epsom salts is a muscle relaxer. It helps to ground the body, ground the dense layers of the muscles. Taking warm oil and massaging your feet with oil is great at night. That oil on your feet literally pulls the energy from your mind into your feet. This is so grounding. Castor oil would be my number one choice, but not everybody. Castor oil can be a little sticky. Sesame oil is a great option as well, but warm it up, take your Epsom salt bath, warm up the oil, massage your feet. Also, under this category of bringing the nervous system into regulation and restfulness, Yoga Nidra is an amazing practice. If you haven't tried it yet, there are practices on YouTube, there's great apps, but Yoga Nidra is a grounding, guided meditation. It's done completely lying on your back, and you're guided through awareness of your breath, awareness of your body, and it stabilizes the prana. It helps actually to take the prana from your mind into your body. It's an incredible practice, and we're able to, in that practice, in that meditation, gain a little bit more of awareness of who we are outside of our minds. There are so many scientific studies now being done, particularly on Yoga Nidra for anxiety. It's pretty incredible. What they see is this increase in melatonin and serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine. And so this is neuroregulation of the body. It's amazing. Okay, and I am teaching a class on Wednesday night in person that's going to have Yoga Nidra if anyone is interested in Northport. Okay, the third category is breathe. When we experience this state of anxiety, often we'll feel, and many of us have experienced this very shallow breath, right? We're breathing just in the chest, and we can't really access that deeper breathing. And when you think of that, like I said before, the breath is our relationship with life. It's how are we literally receiving life when we breathe in? And when we're in anxiety, we are in a state of resisting the breath, right? It's shallow, it's short, it's just up here. We're not in a state of receiving life. This is really a big one to think about, because we're not trusting life in those moments, right? We're in a state of fear. So there are pranayama, breathing techniques that help us harness this prana, this life force, so that we can more intentionally direct our lives in the direction we want it to go in. When we do that deep yogic breathing, that diaphragmatic breathing, we tap into those lower lobes of the lungs, and this stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So we could do 1 minute. I want you just to have a 1 minute experience of a breathing technique of take your fingers together, the tips of your fingers. And this is your mudra, the hand gesture, placing the fingertips together. And when we do this, just this, we start to stabilize the mind. We start to balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain and all 5 elements in the mind: earth, water, fire, air, and space. So we take this mudra, close the eyes, and inhale deeply. Hold the breath at the top. Exhale slowly. Empty yourself and then hold the breath out. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold the breath out. Inhale. Holding the breath in. And exhale. Holding the breath out. And then please take one more inhale. And exhale, relax your hands down. And just notice how you feel, even from that very short practice. It's a wonderful tool to have in your toolbox when you're feeling anxiety, or better yet, practice it every day just to bring more regulation into your nervous system daily, kind of stay ahead of the anxiety. That could be a morning practice where you set a timer, just 3 minutes every morning to do that practice. In that space between each breath, and this is often called box breath as well, but in that space between each breath, we have a little bit of room, maybe between our thoughts, and we can bear witness and start to see that we are not our thoughts, and those thoughts are going to keep happening. This is the mechanism of the mind that we each have. The thoughts are never going to go away, and it's an illusion to think that meditation stops thoughts, right? It's just that we start to not get hooked by every thought. We can bear witness, we can give ourselves a little bit of space. So under this same category of the breath and breathing, this life force energy, there's this energy management component to consider. Is now that we are more aware of our own energy, we can kind of harness it by doing something like a breathwork practice. Now we can kind of organize this prana and maybe just look at the schedule of your day. Where are you putting your precious life energy? Where is it going? Maybe you need to be a little more discerning. I know I've had to learn to be more discerning on where that energy goes, not to be pulled in a million directions. And again, even under this category is what type of exercise are you doing? What type of exercise, what type of yoga, what type of movement is appropriate for you? Now, a lot depends on your overall constitution. If you are more Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, this is more individualized. But when we're managing anxiety, we want to think about creating rhythm in our movement and in our breath. That our minds, our nervous systems, they crave, like I said in the beginning, they crave predictability. They crave a pranic rhythm, which is moving the body with the breath. And breathing in and out through your nose, that you're not exercising so hard that you're like, and breathing through the mouth, you're going to start to stimulate that sympathetic nervous system. So just remembering, we want to stay in that parasympathetic nervous system, long, deep breathing in and out through the nose. So this could be different for everybody and what you choose to do, whether it's walking, biking, doing yoga. But I would suggest too, doing something consistently. So if you could take 10 minutes every morning, connect your body to your breath. That could be doing some cat-cow, doing a little bit of twists. Inhale, exhale, right? There's a lot of different specific exercises you can do. And there's many videos out there for short yoga practice. I think I have it on my website, but I know I have a YouTube channel with very few videos, but it has a 10-minute morning practice, a 20-minute morning practice. Very simple, very accessible to everyone. And you could just take 10 minutes out of your day each morning and let that be an anchor point as well for you. So maybe you can consider, like I said, 3 practices from all that we spoke about today, 1 from each category. And just remember that this is not about perfection. It's really, really not. This is about a sincere effort to ground yourself, a sincere effort to nourish yourself, and consistency is everything, right? It's not what you do once in a while. It's what you do on a daily basis that really has an impact. And when we ground our nervous system through daily routines, daily rituals, not only does this help the management of anxiety and overwhelm, but it also is going to assist proper and strong digestion, sound sleep, a vibrant immune system, clear thinking, emotional resilience. And when we can kind of lean into our nervous system for support, which is what it's here for, then we can also elevate these qualities of Vata dosha. So when our nervous system is grounded and stable, Vata expresses itself as enthusiasm, inspiration, excitement, right? It's the same neural pathways that anxiety and excitement run on. It's just, what's the container? How strong and stable is the container? Right? So just like I said, Pitta can tend towards anger. When Pitta is in balance, it tends towards clarity, decisiveness, right? And Kapha, when Kapha is in balance, it tends towards groundedness, being loving, compassionate, resilient. So each of these doshas have their imbalances, but they, of course, they all also have their benefits. So all in all, when we can take these 3 pillars, how we eat, how we sleep, how we breathe, we're creating a feeling of safety in our bodies. And then that allows our minds to relax and soften, tap into our awareness, our compassion. We're able to establish a new relationship with the flow of life, that we can trust life, that we can trust that life is this benevolent, loving force, that we can lean into that we can create more ease, more creativity, that flow of life just flows through us. We're here to express that flow of life. We can be that fuller expression of who we're meant to be. To me, this is also the crux of healing. This is the healing of consciousness. And we need to move through all the layers of our being to get there. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing this time with me, sharing this time together, sharing your presence. I will be offering in the hopefully near future a 21-day program that will be taking us through a group program with daily practices for managing and easing anxiety and overwhelm. And we'll take these tools and more tools and just work them into a daily practice over time. Also, you can always reach out to me for a personalized program if you want to find out what is your constitution and create a personal healing program. This also includes herbal medicine, which I didn't get into today because I don't like to just offer herbs across the board. It depends on individual constitutions, individual situations, which herbs would be best for you. I also want to invite you Wednesday night. I'm teaching a class called Nourish the Nervous System, and it's going to be stretches, breathing techniques, and yoga nidra. It's at the Dreaming Tree, but you can sign up on my website. And lastly, Tuesday nights, Kundalini Yoga, Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. I invite you to join. It's an incredible practice. It's an incredible way to regulate your nervous system. Kundalini Yoga, specifically the postures and the breathing. So thank you so much for joining. Have a beautiful day. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, reach out, and I hope to see you soon.